Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at the story of Balaam in Numbers chapter 22 through 24 in our ongoing study of the book of Numbers. As we get to Numbers chapter 22, we find we've actually entered the last part of the book. We have the first section where they're at Mount Sinai, and then they're going from Sinai to Kadesh, and that's where they try to go into the land, and it doesn't work, and instead they're in the wilderness for 38 years. So we have the wilderness wanderings. But now as we come to chapter 22, they're at the end of the journey. It's the new generation. They're getting ready to go into the land, and we're going to see a period of several months. And we begin where they have come now to the eastern side of the Jordan River. Remember, they had made that big detour around Edom. They had come past Moab and Ammon. And now they had come up between Moab and Ammon, and they had settled, taking the land from those who attacked them, from the Amorites, and also from Bashan, and they've settled in these cities. And of course, if you're Moab and if you're Ammon, and this big giant group of Israelites, hundreds of thousands and maybe even bigger, have settled on your doorstep, you're beginning to worry about that, and that's the setting for our story. Numbers chapter 22, verse 1, Then the sons of Israel journeyed and camped in the plains of Moab beyond the Jordan opposite Jericho. Here they are, they're at the plains of Moab. Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, so Moab was in great fear because of the people, for they were numerous, and Moab was in dread of the sons of Israel. So he sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river. And you say, the river? Well, what river? That's the river Euphrates, in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, the people came out of Egypt. Behold, they covered the surface of the land, and they are living opposite me. So messengers go all the way up to Pethor from Moab, where there is a prophet for hire. Or I guess we could say a prophet for profit. And they're going to hire Balaam to come down and prophesy against these people. So the messengers go up from Moab. They go to Pethor. So they say to Balaam, Now therefore please come, curse this people for me, since they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I may be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed. Now that's very familiar language, because back in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, God had given this promise to Abraham. God had said, I will bless those who bless you, Abraham, and the one who curses you I will curse. And what had been promised to Abraham is now attributed, either rightly or wrongly, but it's attributed to this prophet, Balaam. So the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the fees for divination in their hand, and they came to Balaam and repeated Balak's words to him. That message that we've just read, they now give it to Balaam. And he said to them, Spend the night here, I will bring word back to you, as the Lord may speak to me. And the leaders of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and said, Who are these men with you? It's not that God doesn't know, but he wants Balaam to interact with him. Balaam said to God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab. Now remember, Balak is the king, Balaam is the prophet. I know the names sound alike. Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent word to me. And here's the word that he sent. Behold, there's a people who came out of Egypt, and they covered the surface of the land. Now come, curse them for me. Perhaps I may be able to fight against them and drive them out. God said to Balaam, Do not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed. Again, echoes of what God had given to Abraham. And so Balaam arose in the morning and said to Balak's leaders, Go back to your land, for the Lord has refused to let me go with you. And the leaders of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Well, Balaam refused to come with us. Now, verse 15, Then Balak again sent leaders, more numerous and more distinguished than the former. He ups the ante. They came to Balaam and said, Thus says Balak, son of Zippor, let nothing, I beg you, hinder you from coming to me, for I will indeed honor you richly. Not only do they up the ante of the quality of leaders, but they up the ante with regard to the offer. We're going to give you a lot of money. Indeed, we'll honor you richly. I will do whatever you say to me. Please come then and curse this people for me. Balaam replied to the servants of Balak, Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything, either small or great, contrary to the commandment of the Lord my God. But then he says, verse 19, Now please, you also stay here tonight, and I will find out what else the Lord will speak to me. I get the sense that Balaam would really like to take the offer. Verse 20, God came to Balaam at night and said to them, If the men have come to call you, rise up and go with them. But only the word which I speak to you shall you do. This time God allows him to go. So Balaam arose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the leaders of Moab. But God was angry because he was going. Now, this is puzzling both to us and probably to them as well, because God had given permission, and yet there's an anger, and the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary, and the word adversary there is the word Satan, which means the enemy, the adversary. And usually we use it to refer to Satan, although it had never been used in such a way as of yet, and so it's simply the word for adversary, correctly translated here. The Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him, and now that is Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his two servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, the donkey turned off from the way and went into the field. The donkey has more spiritual insight than this prophet. But Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back into the way. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path of the vineyards, with a wall on this side and a wall on that side. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pressed herself to the wall and pressed Balaam's foot against the wall. So he struck her again. The angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where there was no way to turn to the right hand or to the left. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam. So Balaam was angry and struck the donkey with his stick. And the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey. Now, this is actually, it's humorous and it's meant to be. And she said to Balaam, What have I done to you that you've struck me these 3 times? What's going to be funny is that Balaam answered, instead of saying, What are you doing talking? Because donkeys can't normally talk. I think what we have here is perhaps one of the first gifts of tongues of those speaking in a language that they don't normally speak. And donkeys normally don't speak human languages. But it's special here because the Lord had opened the mouth of the donkey. The Lord has done something and is using this animal. And the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw that which the donkey had already seen. He saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand, and he bowed all the way to the ground. Notice the Lord had opened the mouth of the donkey. Sometimes we have trouble with that. I have trouble with the fact that the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam. In fact, sometimes I have the trouble with the fact that God has opened my eyes. And that's my prayer for myself, that he would open my eyes and that he would open your eyes as well. Well, the angel of the Lord said to him, Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? And behold, I've come out as an adversary, because your way was contrary to me. But the donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, I would surely have killed you just now and let her live. And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I did not know that you were standing in the way against me. Now then, if it is displeasing to you, I will turn back. You see, Balaam was already I can't help but wonder if he was already counting up the money he was going to get. Because he's in it for the money. But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but you shall speak only the word which I tell you." And so Balaam went along with the leaders of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, which is on the Arnon border, at the extreme end of the border. Here they've come to the Arnon, the northern border of Moab. Then Balaam said to Balak, "Build 7 altars for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here." There's a big lead up here. Balak did just as Balaam had spoken, and Balak and Balaam offered up a bull and a ram on each altar. That was no easy task. So he returned to him, and behold, he was standing beside his burnt offering, he and all the leaders of Moab, and everybody's ready to hear this prophecy. What is he going to say? He took up his discourse and said, "From Aram, Balak has brought me, Moab's king from the mountains of the east. Come curse Jacob for me, and come denounce Israel." How shall I curse whom God has not cursed? And how can I denounce whom the Lord has not denounced? As I see him from the top of the rocks, and as I look at him from the hills, behold, a people who dwells apart, and will not be reckoned among the nations. Who can count the dust of Jacob, or number the 4th part of Israel? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his. Now, if that doesn't sound like a curse to you, then you heard it right. It did not sound like a curse to the king of Moab either. You see, then Balak said to Balaam, "What have you done to me? I took you, I hired you, I brought you down to curse my enemies, but behold, you've actually blessed them." Balak understands. He replied, "Must I not be careful to speak what the Lord puts in my mouth?" And so Balak says, look, he had hired him to come down and curse Israel. Instead, Balaam said, "How can I curse whom God has not cursed?" And so Balak comes up with another plan. He says, "Well, why don't you just come to another place? You know, maybe you're here and you got sort of the wrong vibes. If we just move you to a new location, you'll be able to curse Israel at that new location." And Balaam's now going to answer, well, God is not a man that he should lie. God, you can't play these kind of tricks with God. Then he took up his discourse and said, "Arise, O Balak, and hear. Give ear to me, O son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good?" When God says something, you can bank on it. Now, that doesn't mean that from our point of view, sometimes God says do one thing, and then at a later time says do another. Don't go with them. Yes, do go with them. But it is not God who is changing. It is the circumstances, and sometimes our path through those circumstances change. But God himself doesn't change. He is the unchanging God. Balak goes on to say, "Behold, I have received a command to bless. When he has blessed, then I cannot revoke it. He has not observed misfortune in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. The Lord his God is with him, and the shout of a king is among them." There's something kingly about these Israelites. And so Balak had said, "Come to another place and curse them there." Balaam had answered, "God's not a man that he should lie." Balak now says, "Well, how about if you don't curse them, but don't bless them either? Why don't you just be silent? Maybe we can get to a nice neutrality." And Balaam says, "Whatever the Lord speaks, I must do. I don't have a choice." And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel camping tribe by tribe, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up his discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, the son of Beor, and the oracle of the man whose eye is open. Remember how his eyes had been shut and God had opened his eyes? The oracle of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down yet having his eyes uncovered. How fair are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens beside the river, like aloes planted by the Lord, like cedars beside the waters. We come to verse 9. And verse 9, he says, he couches, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who dares rouse him? Blessed is everyone who blesses you, speaking to Israel, and cursed is everyone who curses you. That's echoing the same promise that God had given to Abraham. But now he continues and adds something new. Here it is, the oracle of him who hears the words of God and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down yet having his eyes uncovered. That's what had happened to Balaam. I see him, but not now. I behold him, but not near. Balaam saying, look, I'm going to tell you about something, but it's not about to happen. It's not now, it's not near. But a star shall come forth from Jacob. A scepter shall rise from Israel. And notice how he applies it to the people there. And it shall crush through the forehead of Moab and tear down all the sons of Sheth. A star and a scepter. A scepter is something a king carries. But a star, that's something no one can change. He goes on to apply it to their situation. Edom shall be a possession. Seir, its enemies, also will be a possession. While Israel performs valiantly, one from Jacob shall have dominion and will destroy the remnant from the city. A star and a scepter that will do all these things. And 1,400 years later, a people from the east, from the same place from which Balaam had come, a people from the east will come, magi from the east, following a star, asking the question, where is he who has been born with a scepter? Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? I can't help but think that perhaps they still had a prophecy from the one prophet of Mesopotamia who had handed this prophecy down all these generations until it came into their keeping, and these magi, these wise men, come from the east to worship Jesus, to whom this prophecy points.